Hi, I'm Gus McCulloch, and today we're talking about the evaluation question 1. In what ways does your media product use, develop and challenge forms and conventions of real media products? So we as a group started looking at different genres and decided, and were particularly drawn to an action thriller film. We know that the conventional action thriller film is quite violent, quite action-packed and upbeat, and with the suspense and stereotypical music that we associate with action thrillers. There are many action thrillers film with obvious conventions, and this is so that the audience can identify what genre it is instantly and are able to watch the film and enjoy it. We looked at several different films, but our main influences was the TV programme Spooks and Skyfall and James Bond and the Unknown series. All of these are stereotypical action thriller films, and they do have a lot of action and suspense build up and the stereotypical conventions that you would expect. We wanted to create a unconventional plot, so we wanted to sort of stray away from the typical action thriller pathway, but at the same time make it an action thriller. And I think we accomplished that quite well with what we have made in our opening sequence. We knew that we wanted from the start, really, when we were looking at the genres, to go down to the action thriller route, and we wanted to undermine the stereotypical conventions so that the audience know what conventions that we were going for, and that they would get the theme that we were hoping to create. We wanted to underpin the normal action thriller films, so we went down the action thriller route so that we could use the different conventions so the audience would focus on the plot rather than the characters, because two of the characters get killed off quite early on in the sequence, and we wanted to save the juicy bits for the middle, if you like, and we didn't really want the audience to focus on the characters. We wanted them to focus on the plot of the whole idea of Buried Alive. Our location, we wanted to use a stereotypical area, a typical area to you or I, and one that people that were watching our film didn't really recognise, so it took them out of their comfort zone. Action could take place in an area that they weren't quite familiar with and well known. So in some of the examples that we used were Spooks and Skyfall. They're shot in London, and a lot of people know the London back alleys and know it very well and inside and out, really. However, we sort of wanted to stray away from that, as they are typical action thriller films and TV series. So in our 2-minute opening, we see a house from far from anywhere. It's in the middle of nowhere, and there's no one knows where it is, so that the audience can focus on the action rather than the location and what's actually taking place in front of them. But the location is a hugely important part in where it's played, because if it doesn't look right when we were actually filming, then we had to reach it. I think we changed location twice. One, because the risk assessment area was quite flooded at the time, and secondly because it didn't look right within the conventions that we were sort of going for. Costume was a big part also, and we wanted to focus on a stereotypical people, but also we wanted to create meaning through the costumes. So for instance, Kim's costume is, she's dressed in white. She's got a white top on, black leggings and stereotypical Ugg boots. So she's sort of a teenage girl but the white creates a sense of purity about her, and she's done nothing wrong, so she is pure and whole. However, we then go to Emma. Oh, sorry, and we have the Ugg boots, which create the youngest nature about her. We then cut to Emma and how she's dressed. She's dressed quite darkly, quite blacks and really dark blues, and we get that sort of, I think she's wearing a red cardigan in one of them, to get the sort of mysteriousness about her, and the mixture of emotions that we get through her ride in the opening 2-minute opening sequence. Sam's dress quite balanced between the two, because at the beginning of the film we see that he wants the revenge and the revenge killing, so therefore he's dressed quite darkly to suggest his good and evil side, and then we see him in with sort of mixed and light colours in the way that he's dressed, to create the balance between, yes, he's vulnerable because he's just lost his girlfriend, and but at the same time he wants the revenge, and the anger and the aggression is coming out of him, and we wanted to portray that, and we thought that it would be quite poignant with the costumes if we could use that to create that stereotypical convention that we see in general action thriller films. But however, at the same time, we didn't want the audience really to focus on the characters that much, or specifically Emma and Kim. We didn't really want them to be focused upon by the audience too much. So that's, in a sense, that's why they're sort of shunted aside by the fact that they're simplistic costume, with Kim in white, sensing that she's pure, Emma in black and dark, sensing that she's evil, and Sam the balance. Now Sam's the interesting character here in the way that his costume is presented, as there is more to come. We see that through the balance of different things. We know that there's going to be more to come later on in the film. Props. Now props, we had many different types of props that we needed to use throughout the 2-minute opening sequence, and there's a lot more to come through the actual film itself. The most significant prop that was probably used in the 2-minute opening is the knife. Now we see the knife once or twice, but it's probably the most poignant and significant in the fact that it actually kills Sam's girlfriend, and that she is dead after the knife has been used. And we also see Sam going in with a baseball bat. Now that's another prop that we had to look for and budget into our film opening. Now we see the bat later on in the film as well, but it's used a couple of times, once to kill Emma, and then later on down the line in the actual film, when Sam gets his revenge again. So we wanted to create all of realism with the props. So we used cable ties for handcuffs to create normal action thriller packed sort of environment, if you like. I mean, usually we see, definitely in Spooks, we saw people being tied up with cable ties rather than actual handcuffs. Just creates that more sense of realism through the actual plot and how it's well thought out, rather than the conventional way of tying someone up with handcuffs or a bit of rope or something. We actually wanted to go away from that, so we used the cable ties to create that harsh sense and sound. Also, we had to create papers, because Sam is an ex-MI5 agent, and he is always well equipped, on time, and we see that through his the props and the papers that he has managed to get of Emma, and the way that he has focused upon her and taken different photos and different times and put together a map, and so that way that prop was quite a good and interesting, and also again that strayed off the typical action thriller film whereas big brutish guy just goes up and kills someone. It was actually planned and well thought out and integrated within the film. And we also wanted to focus on the fact that a lot of people die every day, but however there are a lot of sort of revenge killings, and we thought we'd make that a poignant and to our audience members, because we're targeted at such a young teenage age, really. So we just wanted to make people more aware of the different types, so if people are being bullied or things like that, and it can end up leading to such extreme things such as death, that people might come out and get them for revenge. So we wanted to sort of create an awareness, if you like, of a different plot of how the film would work, and that would also strayed off the stereotypical action thriller film. So we challenged the normal conventions that have been used. Sound effects and music were quite another typical thing that we associate. We wanted typical action thriller upbeat suspense music that was created, but we wanted it to be unique. So all the sound effects that you hear in our 2-minute opening are real. They are done on set as the action is unfolding in front of you, really. So the things like Emma's scream when Sam running up behind her and trying to hit her, her scream that she lets out is all real. The handcuffs when they're clicking, it's all a real experience, basically. The music, we found it really hard with the music to create we couldn't find the right music that we wanted to go alongside with the film. So one of my friends put together a unique heartbeat sound that we wanted with Kim's death. We wanted the heartbeat to come out with when Kim gets stabbed, and then we wanted it to unfold into a upbeat, typical action thriller film with a bit of suspense music. And my friend came through and actually really impressed us with the music that we got off him, and everyone in the group really liked the music that was played. And we thought that it was really good, so thanks to him we were able to create a real sounding music effect with build-up, and it was quite interesting in the unusual thriller ways in which the heartbeat carried on throughout the whole thing. It wasn't just in Kim's bit, so it was sort of unconventional and challenged, again, typical forms and conventions that we see in action thriller films. Also, we had the different use of camera angles. We had the candid camera angle, and when Emma is being killed, it's sort of at an angle so that the action you see is different to any other action thriller film. I mean, obviously, action thriller production companies will use different shot types and things, but we wanted to create a different sense of plot and different sense of action that was unfolding and taking place. So the establishing shot is of a room, and it's quite a nice establishing shot of Sam sitting in a chair. We don't know what's quite happening, but we can understand that he's watching TV and that he's quite just sitting there, quite subdued, really. And then we see him obviously fall asleep, and then the action unfolds into the flashback. The continuity and montage editing alongside with the lighting, really created that sense of typical action, packed and thriller sensation about it, really. The continuity editing with Sam getting up and picking up different pictures and different sheets of paper all rolled together, and then we saw the montage of the props again of the plan that was going to happen of Emma's killing, and we like that sort of different montage and continuity editing. It really worked for us, and again strayed off the typical action thriller route. We had some different shot types again that we hoped would stand out from other action thriller films. However, we went back to the stereotypicalness of the conventions and forms, with the use of the stereotypical blood and how it was quite gory, and the typical action thriller upbeat power so that something's happened and creates a suspense. It also creates marketing interest for us, and the fact that it's used twice and later on, and it progresses into maybe other films that we could produce. The titles are all based around our storyboard, really. Unfortunately we had to cut to the first beginning bit of the storyboard and the very end of the storyboard off, because they were over the 2 minute allotted time. So it was unfortunate that we had to do that, but it was necessary, as the time allowance was constricted to 2 minutes opening. The titles added atmosphere, and the way that they came across was quite important to us, and we really took examples from Spooks mainly through this. For instance, the buzzing in of the titles created that sense of mystery and era about the whole action plot that was occurring. We wanted to make the main characters stand out from the rest of them, so we added a blue tinge behind the buzzing in writing to create that emphasis that they are the main characters, that they are the plot throughout, and etc. Again, it creates the mysteriousness and the climactic suspense of the title sequence that we really wanted to get involved in, and we wanted to catch the audience's eye with something a bit different, something a bit new that hadn't been typically tried before in an action thriller film, as they are sort of normal writing comes into it. There was a lots of the juxtaposition that was used with the blood as well, and it created the ambiguity of the whole sort of plot together, really, and we wanted to create that sense of realistness with the whole plot. So yeah, it was. We think it's a good 2 minute opening, and we hope that our audience enjoyed it. And I think in some ways we have challenged and developed typical conventions and stereotypical meanings of action thriller films, and in some way we've used them as well.